just went up to 240 quite quickly. All right, let's dive in. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We are in the presence of Deepak Subramanian, who has a 30-year fantastic career at Unilever. So starting off at sales and marketing and now spending the last 12 years in general management. He is with us today discussing AI for high growth in consumer goods. So please join me in welcoming Deepak to the stage.
Thank you, Akini, and good morning, everybody. The topic of my session today is how can we use AI strategically to create value in consumer goods. And before I start, I want to make sure that I give 3 odd caveats so that everybody can understand where I'm coming from. As Akini said, a 30-year business career with Unilever, and the last 7 to 8 years, I've also built an advisory portfolio. And my perspectives today are not that of an AI expert, but I come in as a business leader from consumer goods, and I'm going to be focusing on how AI can be used to create and enhance enterprise value. So please be aware of that. The second thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take a system overview. I'm not going to get into specific technologies or specific applications. I will share some use cases, but the big focus for me is how do we shift the system in totality. And my third caveat is that execution is more important than technology. Digital transformation is not about the technology at all. In fact, it's about people. I think this is a provocative message. Many of you who love technology in the audience are probably going to not like what I'm saying, but this has been my experience, that you can have all the great technologies in the world, but it does not land and it does not create impact unless we address all the human issues that are associated with implementing technology. I'm going to come back to this later on in my presentation as I wrap up. So let me start off by saying that AI and technologies have been around for a very long time. And in fact, even in the consumer goods industries, for the last 5 to 10 years, technology has been changing the way value is created. Here you see how the traditional value chain in consumer goods used to be. This is the planning cycles and the supply chain that I grew up in, let's say 20, 25 years ago when I started my career. And it was what I call a linear value chain. Raw materials move to the factory, they get produced, they move to the warehouse, then they move to the retailer, and then they move to the consumer. And each step had a planning cycle, had an order and confirmation cycle. And from the start to the end, it was one after the other. And the feedback cycles were pretty long. And this was the way business was run. Fast forward now, over the last 5 to 10 years, with the increased use of digitization, the way the value chain is now run in CPG has changed. I call it a modern, non-linear value chain. This is a chain that's absolutely connected. It's absolutely flexible. You can see that the consumer is at the heart of this, and the feedback loops go in multiple directions, and they go across all different points in the chain. Great examples for me are you can have information about the crop and weather patterns in Brazil having an impact on coffee pricing. You can have the ratings and reviews for a new innovation that has just been launched, massively having an impact on the procurement and the manufacturing cycle. So everything is connected, everything feeds off each other. And for those of you who are still trying to understand what is it that I'm saying, I think the best example that I can think of is think of the traditional value chain as a relay race, each person passing it on to the next person, whilst the modern value chain is like a game of fast, quick pass football, where everybody's passing to everybody else, a bit like how the Brazilian team operates. And that's how the signals are flying, and eventually the goals are happening. So in this world, with a lot of AI being around us over the last 5 to 10 years and only increasing with the advent of generative AI, there is a lot of clutter. And this is, for me, the central thesis in my presentation today is that for business executives like myself, looking to drive strategy and looking to drive transformation, this is not a very easy place to navigate. Just this one chart will tell you these are enterprise AI companies with a very high degree of specialization: HR, marketing, sales, procurement, engineering. There's just so many companies, so many solutions. And before you know it, you can get absolutely lost in lots and lots of pilots. There is very high AI clutter. And my focus from my role, and that's the message I want to pass on today, is all of us need to take a very strategic approach to AI. I'm going to share with you some of my experiences, easy, simple, intuitive tools. And with this strategic approach, then business leaders can be very wise and can be very focused in how they do the resource allocation towards all things AI. So let's dive straight into it. And I think the first step that I like to do is to frame the value chain not through the lens of activities. Oh, there's a production activity. Oh, there's a distribution activity. I like to look at it through a set of grouped activities, or what I call activity systems, that are in service of an audience. I have picked up 4 audiences in my framing of the value chain and where AI can play a role. So the first one is, how do you deliver superior consumer experiences? The second one is, because we often go through customers, how do we deliver faster customer growth and thereby serve our customers better, typically our retailers, online, offline? Many of us are involved in operations, and how can we then serve all of the people involved in ensuring more efficient operations? And finally, how do we make sure that all the executive decision making can happen faster? And behind these 4 activity systems are a whole set of connected actions, but it's important to think of the activity systems and not the activities per se, because each one of these then can help us to have specific and targeted inputs. Second thing that I like to do is to think horizons of value capture. AI can do a lot of things, and I typically like to think of this in 3 steps. AI can make things run quicker and cheaper. AI can help make things go better. And if you really push it to its end, AI can help to do new things and build new sources of competitive advantage. So 3 horizons of value capture. Often in the world today, you see a lot of the value capture that's happening through things being made quicker and cheaper with the use of AI. And over time, we will see more and more of the use cases helping to make things better and helping to build new sources of competitive advantage. So if you put all of these 3 together and you get then to step 3, I call this the value chain outcomes framework. Nothing fancy title, but very, very simple construct. Take the 2 frames that I talked to you about just now, the consumer ecosystem, the customer ecosystem, and the operations ecosystem, and look at the 3 horizons of value capture: quicker and cheaper, better, newer, and make it a 2 by 2. And as you try to fill each and every one of these cells, you start to think about outcomes. Every enterprise will have this. It can range anywhere between 10, 20, 30, whatever works for each enterprise. But the key thing is to think, what are the outcomes that I can generate for consumers that make life quicker and cheaper, or for customers, which can build new sources of competitive advantage? So this for me is a nice strategic frame, which then helps me assess the different technologies, the different vendors, the different suppliers, and the different things that I need to be putting money and dollars towards. This helps me to focus a lot. Let me now go a little bit deeper and try to explain to you the potential, and then talk to you about some use cases before I wrap up. The value creation potential for bringing AI into CPG is enormous. And I picked this chart up from a BCG analysis that was done 3 years ago. And their focus is that there are 10 AI applications that can drive most of the growth in CPG. There are 4 must-haves: demand forecasting, ROI measurement for advertising, data-powered sales activation, and individualized store assortments. These, all CPG companies must invest behind AI, and these can typically add 7 to 9% of sales increase as per their modeling. Then there are 6 other use cases, which are a bit more sector dependent, can add another 2 to 5%. So just think about it. An industry that's struggling to generate anywhere between 3 to 4% annual growth has the potential to double that if we implement AI at the enterprise level to create value. That's absolutely exciting, huge potential. But I keep coming back to the central part of my thesis: easy to get lost in pilots, very hard to do this at scale. And that's where the value capture will happen. So let's now go a little bit deeper. I picked up 4 examples of 4 outcomes that I can talk to you about from delivering superior consumer experiences: faster speed to market, increased personalization to drive better engagement, delivering better innovation that's incremental. And if you push it all the way to the end, what are the new sources of competitive advantage? Maybe building new revenues. Typically in CPG, that ends up being moving from go-to-market models that are via retailers, going direct to consumer, and maybe sometimes moving from products to services. I'll just share with you a few examples, because this then brings it very practical in terms of how can we use AI across these experiences, and then I come back at the end to wrap it up. So the company that I work for, Unilever in India, recently has created an agile innovation hub This is an end-to-end hub that drives AI in our innovation process. But from a speed to market point of view, one of the amazing things that's coming out of this is, with a whole lot of AI digital tools, our ability to work with new suppliers, new ingredients, new packaging material becomes much, much faster. Our response times now to changes in our sourcing network go much faster. And that is helping us to have better resilience and better speed to market in the face of all the geopolitical and supply chain related black swan events that we keep happening in the world. So this is one example that I picked up. Coke has been doing an amazing job in terms of using generative AI, which is the technology that is now taking the world by storm. Lots of limited editions is what you see in the picture here. The one on the right was the year 3000 variant, and this was a variant, a limited edition that Coke launched based on the imagination of AI of what would Coca-Cola look like in the year 3000. But when I think from a content point of view, Coke is all about maximizing occasions and being present in the right occasions with the right message and with the right pack size. And there's a lot of generative AI tools that they're using at the back end to make sure that they're present in the right context with the right pictures and with the right content. So Coke does a fantastic job of personalization, and you could research and see this more of this. There's a company called Tastewise. This is an AI-based company, and what they have is access to millions of recipes in restaurants, food delivery units, billions of social media posts around people talking about their food and beverage that they're consuming. And Tastewise is able to analyze all of this and give trends and help marketeers design better innovations that are on trend faster. They've recently launched Taste GPT, which is their generative AI-based interface to help brand managers and ABMs to work with the system in native language and to make it much more faster and intuitive. And this is a case where AI is being used to deliver better innovations. And finally, two examples come to my mind. I'm thinking of Lakme, a premium beauty brand in India, or if I look at what L'Oreal does with the Garnier hair color service, great opportunity to go into a direct-to-consumer model based on high-quality first-party data and a lot of AI to drive personalized messaging, and for both these companies and for others also to create direct-to-consumer content and commerce platforms. So these would be great examples that I managed to pick up. How do you move from being quicker and faster all the way to building new sources of competitive advantage under the ecosystem of delivering superior consumer experiences? Let me now move to faster customer growth, the second ecosystem. Again, a variety of outcomes that we can drive. Better demand forecasting, higher net revenue realization, better on-shelf availability, faster category development via better assortment. And if you push it all the way, how do we drive full funnel, omni-channel journeys to drive better revenue realization from the customers? Let's share some examples. Danone has been investing quite significantly in AI across their value chain, especially in product discovery. But the thing that caught my attention was how they have used AI-based systems to improve their demand forecasting and thereby have a tighter control in their inventory. Remember, yogurt has a shelf life of 4 to 5 weeks, and therefore every few days that you are able to do this better with the use of data and analytics, it has a massive impact on the value creation in the enterprise. Pricing, very, very hard, very, very, very complex. You've got to use all the levers of pricing, and this cannot be done without the use of AI. This has been my experience, whether you want to optimize your portfolio, your pack price channel, your geography play, your trade promotions, or the customer profitability. There's increasing use of computer vision to make sure that planograms are designed effectively and that brands are complying to planograms and minimizing the amount of out of stock on shelf. And the ability to plug this is giving anywhere between 1 to 2% higher sales because we're able to have real-time data capture just with images on the phone. And there's this company called Trax that is doing a fantastic job here. I have had personal experience using the Kantar Rich Mix solution, and this is a tool to optimize the assortment on shelf. It's based on the simple view that not all SKUs are equal, and often we tend to rank SKUs based on turnover to decide which one will stay on the shelf and which not. The reality is often smaller SKUs might actually be much more needed because they're much more unique. And this tool brings in, for example, the degree of substitutability using a lot of AI-based content to optimize the shelf for volume or value or profit, whatever be your objective. And finally, I love this example from Unilever in India. This is an eB2B app which allows digital demand capture from all the millions of mom and pop stores. What's really great on where the company is going now is to integrate demand generation along with this demand capture tool and to literally have a full funnel of operations for our customers. And this is helping drive a whole lot of upsell, cross-sell, and better revenue growth for the company. So again, you can see a suite of AI tools driving outcomes either quicker or better or building new sources of competitive advantage. If I were to then go into more efficient operations, I picked up 4: better productivity, enhanced people experience, better safety and quality, and how do we become more sustainable? Again, following the same logic. AI has been around, as I said, for 5 to 10 years. A lot of predictive AI has come into the supply chain, but where most big CPG companies are going today is to set up what is called a supply chain nerve center or a control tower, where plan, source, make, and deliver are all integrated, all hooked up, all talking real time together and helping to drive enhanced productivity. I have 2 examples that I really like. One is logistics AI. How do you reset the entire sourcing network of a company in order to minimize the kilometers traveled on the road? This is not only good for cost, also great for sustainability. And the other one that I really like is the use of digital twins in manufacturing. You have IoT sensors that are put on the line, and real-time data capture allows the lines to work far more efficiently using digital modeling. And this is helping improve capacity utilization and reduce the amount of idle capacity that's there. Great use case. When you talk about employees, I wanted to pick up 2 examples here. One is what I use in Unilever. We have this chatbot called Ask Una, and there's a lot of natural language processing that helps me, for example, understand my salary package or understand how I can get things done related to all people matters in the company. But what really blew my mind was yesterday, as I was preparing for this presentation, came across a new concept. Just like you have a digital twin, you have an employee twin. And there's a company now called Artisan.ai that is creating a next generation of AI digital workers. These are AI agents that are not just doing individual tasks, but they're going to do a role end to end. Research this. Could be fantastic, could be scary, but this is where the world is going. Del Monte, a fruit and beverage company, made a strategic investment in a company called Decapolis, a blockchain-based company. And now they're having such amazing traceability so that they're able to promise their consumers complete traceability of their fruits and vegetables from farm to fork. And again, a whole lot of AI-based tools being used here to make sure that that this is traceable. And there are other food safety applications also. Lastly, lots of demands from investors for companies and NGOs for our companies to become a lot more focused and aware of our footprint. And therefore, here's a company that's using, again, a SaaS model layered with a lot of AI to map the emissions, to monitor, and to measure the entire footprint of a company, and then helping the company start to drive changes in their product design and in their value chain to make sure that their emissions, their water consumption, their plastic, and all other footprint measures are optimized and decoupled from growth. So I shared a lot of examples. I did a quick whirlwind tour, and I shared with you the potential. The question I was asking, and I'm sure many of you in the audience are also having the same, saying, okay, the theory is good, but is this actually giving real results? And I spoke to my friends in Infosys, one of the biggest IT companies in the world, who do a lot of AI-based work for CPG companies. And I don't expect all of you to read the fine print here. I have kept the key messages in green for a variety of applications. Names not mentioned because it's confidential, but they were happy to share the use cases. Some amazing empirical data showing that it is possible to create significant value, growth, margin, speed in CPG using these tools. And this is really real, and therefore, when done well, can unlock massive enterprise value. So I then come to the most important part as I wrap up my session, which is to do this well, organizations need to invest in a very tight governance and massive change management. And this brings me back to the message I said at the start. Digital transformation, AI transformation is a lot more about the people, less about the technology. You've got to start with a call to action, an enterprise action plan, And Unilever in India does this really well. They have a program called Reimagine Hindustan Unilever Limited. And the vision there is to become the most intelligent enterprise in the world. L'Oreal also does this really well. Their focus is to reinvent the future of beauty. And this then becomes the umbrella vision on which the entire transformation program is hinged. I've had the opportunity in my executive career over the last 30 years, in my advisory career over the last 8 years, and also being on on the board of many companies, have seen the transformation running at close quarters. And I have a couple of learnings to share before I wrap up. Number one is to get the change in and to execute this really well. Enterprises need to set a bold ambition and reimagine the full system, not parts, the whole system. And this can only happen when it is led by the CEO and the leadership team. It's very important to have a disciplined approach to scaling. It's very easy to get stuck in pilots that create amazing headlines. But if the disciplined rhythm of steer course, kill, pivot, or scale decisions are not taken, employees will be busy, but will create no real impact. This one is very, very important. And I don't think enough attention is being given to this. I had posted on LinkedIn a few days ago about a Microsoft and LinkedIn survey, which showed that almost 80% of all employees today are using some form of generative AI. All of us do, you do, I do. But the surprising part for me was 75% of these people are doing so with their personal IDs and with their personal devices. And underneath this behavior is a fear of the consequences that people fear about what happens to me, what happens to my job, what happens to the role that I'm doing if I now get an AI to do everything for me. The reality is we will head into a human AI hybrid interface system. And if enterprises don't reimagine the workflows and don't reimagine reward systems, we will not be able to land the technology because the human concerns will come in the way. So don't only focus on the tech, reimagine the workflows and rewards for a human AI hybrid model. And finally, organizations need to invest massively in cybersecurity and responsible AI practices to make sure that reputational risks, business risks, and risk coming from bias is addressed. I want to end with a book that had a massive impact on me. 3 years ago, I read this book called AI 2041, written by Kai-Fu Lee. I would urge many of you to read this if you're interested. It's 10 human short stories set in 2041 in a world where AI is all around us. And at the end of each chapter, there's an explanation of the specific AI technology that was used in that story. Beautiful stories, and many of these are already playing out in 2024. So I want to end by the query that I put into ChatGPT 4.0, saying, what does CPG 2041 look like? And this is what it threw up. Here's an image depicting the futuristic vision of the consumer goods industry in 2041, fully powered by AI. Automated factories, AI-driven supply chains, smart store shelves, personalized marketing through augmented reality, and consumers using AI assistants for shopping in a sleek, high-tech environment. How about that? Thank you. I think I finished on time. And Akeen, I'm going to hand it over to you to help me with Q&A. Hopefully, we have some time for that.
Yes, of course. So we have about a minute and a bit. So there's one question here that I think is a great one to probably end on. So it's here. It says, great to have this technology, but how do you convince the board of such an established company to shift business models from a classic CPG consumer unit to a more diverse set of AI service-led models? We have 1 minute to answer.
1 minute, and I think I talked about this. It comes down to the enterprise value that can be unlocked. It's very important to take each one of these use cases and try to put a value to it. So how much extra growth can we get? How much extra margin can we get? What is our productivity? What can that move to? And that's why that BCG chart that I talked to you about was so important, because this is real. And the Infosys chart was real because it showed empirical data on the unlock that's possible. So that's what I would do. I would follow the numbers and make a persuasive business case based on business outcomes that we're able to drive. You're on mute, Akeem. You're on mute. Okay. I guess it's time's up. And thank you all very much for being part of this session. Thank you.